We've made impressive progress in this section already. We have working image upload with validations and resizing, but unfortunately right now it only works in development. Currently, the images are being stored on the local disk, and by local here I mean local to the Cloud IDE. But if we deploy this to Heroku, because of the way Heroku works, images will be reset every time you deploy. So obviously that's not acceptable for a production application, which means we need to store these images somewhere else. There are lots of options for this. Probably the most popular and the one I'm most familiar with is Amazon's Simple Storage service, which is part of Amazon Web Services. And conveniently, if you're using the Cloud IDE, you already have an AWS account. If you don't have one yet, you should create one now at aws.amazon.com. Then you have to create a user using what's called the Identity and Access Management Interface, IAM. Which is here at aws.amazon.com/IAM. Your users, add a user like this. Enable programmatic access here. Let's try this here. Administrator access, tags. We don't need this. Let's create the user, see if this works. All right, now we have an access key ID and a secret access key we can show. Now, I'm going to blur these out because these are pretty dangerous to expose. It would allow anyone access to this account to upload arbitrary things, to change permissions, and so on. But you should copy these, and we're going to configure Heroku with these keys. I'm going to copy this here. Close. All right, there we go. Click on this here. Now we need to create a bucket. Create a bucket, say Real Tutorial Screencasts, US East region is fine. Go to next, 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 create bucket. And I think that's it. So now we need to configure our application. The gem file, so now we need to add a gem for Amazon. The AWS SDK, that's Software Development Kit for S3, and then the current version is this. Again, use the one online. Require false, I'm not sure why, but that's what the documentation said. Now the configuration here is in storage.yaml. Like this here. So test is disk, local is disk. This is now, well, whatever we want to call it. We'll call it Amazon. And now we need to have a bunch of key value pairs for the configuration. So this is service, which is S3. And now the access key ID and the secret access key from your account. This is the kind of thing that's dangerous to hard code, and Heroku has a way of dealing with this that involves not having to hard code it. It uses a hash called env. We actually saw this kind of thing before with SendGrid. So what we're going to have to do is tell Heroku about these keys as well. So let's do this. So this is the Heroku environment. So let's do this here. Let's just copy this. And this is secret access key. Let's line it up here. And then region, we'll just say and AWS region. And then the bucket, just put in the bucket name. And there's one more piece of configuration locally here in the app, which is in production.rb. Here we have config.activeStorageService equals local. We need to change that to Amazon. Let's add a comment. And that might be it. Just double check our test suite. We're not really testing this sort of thing, but still good to see if it's green, and it is. All right, so now the last thing to do before deploying is to do the Heroku configuration. At this point, we have to put in the access key ID, the secret access key, the region, and the bucket. I can do the region here. You can see here it's US East 2, so let's just copy that. This is the kind of thing that was handled before automatically by the SendGrid add-on, but here we have to do it by hand. By the way, we can do the opposite, just if you want to double check things. And then the bucket name. Rails tutorial screencasts. And now I'm going to put in my secret keys, which, again, it's important not to share. The whole reason we're doing what we're doing is so we don't actually have to write these things down anywhere in our app. So even if someone had the source code for our application, they wouldn't have access to these keys. All right, I think that's it. You never know, though. These are really hard things to get right the first time. So what we're going to do is deploy from this branch rather than going to master, merging in the changes. We're going to deploy right from the user micropost branch. And this is a useful thing to know how to do anyway. If you've been making commits as you've gone along, then you can go ahead and just say something like this. Or add production configuration. Or if you haven't made any commits this whole chapter, you can say something like add user microposts. So let's say add image upload. And now I'm going to do git push Heroku. And then say user microposts :master to tell Heroku that I want to treat this branch as if it were the master branch for the purposes of deployment. See if it works. All right, there we go. I'm always amazed when things like this work, so let's see if it actually does work. All right, we have to reset the database and reseed it. Obviously a really dangerous thing to do in a real production app, but this is just for our demonstration purposes. See the database. All right, here goes nothing. Will our production kitten work? Let's check it out. I can't believe it worked. That is so awesome. I've done this so many times, and I never fail to be astonished that it actually worked. Look at that. A production application, resized. It's really hard to believe. Amazing. The reason this worked is not only because we got all the configuration right, but also because Heroku has ImageMagick installed already, which is really convenient. It means the resizing automatically works, as do all the other things. Full resolution, too big. Look at that. Beautiful. This is a huge accomplishment. Not only do we have images working with our microposts, but this is also foundation for any sort of website that needs to accept file uploads. And it's all possible without ever leaving Rails using active storage.